Hello everybody and welcome to your Monday edition of the Blood Red podcast, brought to you by the Liverpool Echo in association with our dear sponsors NordVPN. I'm your host Theo Squires, and with Liverpool's pre-season now officially over, the real football is very much upon us. We've got a bumper episode for you today with plenty to get through after the Arne Slot's Anfield debut, and then of course with the transfer window being open, a whole host of transfer talk as well. Joining me, we have the creme de la creme. Firstly, it's the Echo's Liverpool correspondent, both home and away, Paul Gorst. How are you, Gorsty?
Very good, yeah. Very tired. Still feel like I'm jet lagged from the tour. But good to be back and good to have a super sub in place of Ian Doyle.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you already know who our guest is, but I'm going to give it the big build-up anyway. No Ian Doyle or Joe Roma today, so Gorsty and I, we had to get our heads together, dust off the contacts book, and thought, who can we rope in instead? Who can come to our rescue? And he's got just the 733 more appearances for Liverpool than Doyley and Joe. It's the one and only Jamie Carragher. He's come to our rescue. I think it's been 2 years since we had you on the pod, Jamie. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been too long. I thought I did this every season at the start of a season, so it's been 2 years, has it?
The last one we did was the week of the Champions League final in Paris. Oh. It was the sort of day after the Premier League had ended, and we did it on the Monday in Trattoria, wasn't it, on Old Hall Street? So, yeah, good to get you back in Old Hall Street. You know, a lot of readers and viewers think that we're based in Manchester, but we can categorize that today, can't we? But, yeah. So you've,
Yeah, glad to be here. And I mean, this is the new offices, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been here, in this floor, since the pandemic, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice enough. We're settling in, and I think we're getting
no Carragher there, though.
We'll have to bring a copy in.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not getting a fee for this, am I? So, no.
I took it home to reread.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we will give the shout out to NordVPN as always. Thank you for your support. We're all on board with Nord here, including Jamie Carragher. If you haven't got the memo by now, to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link, as always, will give you the 4 months extra free on your 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. It is worth using. Gorsty and I have both used it, with Gorsty being in the States, maybe in Germany for the Euros. The link is in the podcast episode there in the description box, so go check it out. If you don't, more for you. But now we've got that done, we'll go straight into the football. We are, 2 months into the Arne Slot Liverpool reign. Jamie, what have you made of it so far?
Very good. I don't think it could have gone much better, really. I think you look at the pre-season games, I think we all look at pre-season the same, don't we? If Liverpool get beat, we say it's a fitness game, and if we win, we take the positives from it. So I think to beat Man United and Arsenal in pre-season, and then the way we played yesterday, the result we had yesterday against Sevilla. I know there's been a few other games, but they're against what you would call opposition who most supporters are aware of. So I don't think you could ask too much in the games. We've scored goals, it looked exciting going forward. So it looks like it's gone pretty well.
Gorsty, you've seen more of Liverpool this summer than anyone really, having gone out to the States. What have you made of it? It's all coming together quite nicely from what it seems.
Yeah, really good. He's sort of chopped and changed the idea of the number 6, hasn't he? Which I'm sure we'll come on to. He's played Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones, and they've all had a little go in there. And he's sort of stuck Harvey Elliott as a bit of a number 10, hasn't he? And I think Elliott's been the standout performer for me, certainly in the States anyway. He looked like a real old-school number 10 in that role. Mo Salah looks fit and sharp. I think the decision to leave him at home and basically swerve the Olympics with Egypt has paid off nicely. Good pre-season for him. Jarell Quansah is growing by the game. He looks every inch of England international and waiting for me now. And we've had the return this week of the big guns, haven't we? Trent, Van Dijk, McAllister, all involved yesterday. So, yeah, like Jamie says, it's gone pretty much as well as you'd hope. And Liverpool have looked really good, particularly in the first half of all of the games.
And you look at the teams they've selected over this weekend, it feels like got the hint of what they're going to select against Ipswich. Maybe they'll get a signing in before then, but it was a really strong side against that first game.
Yeah, it was the Seville game yesterday. I saw the team. I watched I watched the first half basically, and seeing it was 3-0. And I had to start helping out with the barbecue in the garden then, so I was under orders, so I didn't quite see the second half. I've seen the goal from the young lad who came on. So, no, I think that last pre-season game is almost... We all knew that as players when we were playing, if you're in the team in that last sort of standout pre-season game, that you've got a great chance of playing. I think he looked like he had Gravenberch in that number 6 position, if you like, so... It'll be interesting to see who he puts there if he gets the signing that he wants from Real Sociedad over the line before then. But I think the standout thing for me in terms of the holding midfield position, the fact that we put a bid in for a player, and also the manager has almost played every single player in that role except Endo. I don't know. We played him at the start of the tour in America. Was that better, Stacky?
Yeah.
And I don't think he played particularly. I didn't see the game, but I just seen some reports saying he found it difficult. Now, I think Endo will go. I'm pretty confident of that because it almost looks like he's completely the opposite of what he wants in that role. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. It just means, when a manager wants to play a slightly different type of game or tactics or setup. So I think he'd play virtually everybody there instead of Endo, actually. More what we class as attacking midfield players, Curtis Jones, Gravenberch, who played there yesterday. I don't see him as a number 6, I'm being totally honest. But for the manager, because he's maybe better at receiving the ball than Endo from the defenders, it looks like, I think he'll probably put anyone in there before he puts Endo in there. So that's why I think he'll probably move on.
I think you tend to associate number 6s with big, strong fellas who put tackles in and cover ground and eat up space and press and all that type of stuff. But he seems to prize a little bit more control over his number 6s. Players who can get on the ball in any area, really tight areas, get themselves out of jams, and sometimes to be picking it up on a penalty spot yesterday and playing it around, and that, with respect to Endo, is probably not his game compared to someone like a Curtis Jones or certainly a McAllister.
Yeah, but we're saying it's not their game. We expect those players to be getting the ball on the ball between the lines, if you like, because they're technical players. They can play the final pass. Arne Slotter's maybe asking them to play a little bit deep because they got that technical capabilities of getting out of trouble. Basically being what we all say now is a press resistant. They're getting closed down in those areas. But I hope we get this. The lad from Real Sociedad comes in because that's his role as a holding midfield player, and I think it really tells you the difference between sort of Jurgen Klopp and Arne Slot straight away. In that Jurgen goes for Fabinho, and this manager is looking for someone who's more on the ball. But again, that brings up questions for me in that if it's Zubamendi, can he play with McAllister in midfield? Are they too similar? I know McAllister, you can say, he plays higher up. I just think about without the ball. So no player is perfect, no systems, you're still asking questions. And in the past, Jurgen Klopp's midfield was always asked the question of, even though it was winning every week and winning everything, is it creative enough? Does it score enough goals? I think we'll be having the same conversations or similar sort of conversations about this midfield if we get the Zubamendi in, about does it protect the defence enough? Is it aggressive enough? Does it win the ball enough? I think we'll be having is there enough pace in there? I think we'll be having those discussions. But I think that's just the nature of the fact that we've got a manager now who just sees the game slightly different from Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, that brings us on nicely to Zubamendi. Gorsty, where are we up to with that one? Because it's been a while now.
Well, I say this is my first day back for over a week. I think Doyle was reporting last week, wasn't he, that they've sort of earmarked him as the first signing of the summer with a few hoops to jump through. It appears that if they are to trigger the release clause of 52 million, it'll have to be paid in a bit of a lump sum. Liverpool seem a little bit reluctant to do that, and there's some question marks over whether he wants to leave San Sebastian. He's, a homegrown hero of the team almost. And does he want to move to Liverpool? Does he want to stay there? Loads of sort of conjecture around there at the moment, but I think Liverpool have got to pull the finger out and make a decision either way, really, because Premier League season starts Friday night, doesn't it? They're obviously at Ipswich Saturday morning, and I don't know what you think about this, but I always think when you're bringing players in after the season starts, you're already playing a bit of catch-up in terms of getting your ideas across and what they need to do.
No, I agree. I think every manager always says they want to get players in before the first day of pre-season, but the nature of transfer business, it's not always like that. And everyone's in this game, aren't they? And sometimes, do we buy our one before we sell our one? Everyone's just waiting around. Can we get a better deal? So I think we have to accept now that it's not always easy to get someone across the line before the first game of the season for a lot of different reasons. Now, sometimes I can see Manchester United do this in the summer, I think, with the striker that they bought from, is it Zirkzee? Yeah. I think they actually paid more than the buyout clause, so they could pay it in instalments. And that's what Liverpool might have to do. You might have to say, OK, we'll buy him for 55 if we can just spread this across 3 or 4 years rather than having to pay maybe a lump sum to start with. But listen, that's I don't really understand that side of the business. But in terms of the player, I'd be surprised if a player who Zubamendi doesn't choose the Premier League. It's not choosing Liverpool. Imagine this was Arsenal, United, City, a Champions League team in the Premier League, and you're 25 years of age. I'd expect a player to make that move. I would, And I'm not talking about financially. I'm sure he'd be that'd be well sorted out. But I think Real Sociedad, obviously a good side, but he's not 18, 19, 20. Yeah. He's right in that. He's in that position where he's got to make that move in his career. And again, it's not about how can anybody turn Liverpool down. I'm not saying that, but I just think the Premier League's the best league in the world. To play in this league week in, week out, as you're just coming into your prime, and a team who's in the Champions League, a team with Liverpool's history in the Champions League, I'd be disappointed if he didn't make that move, or he didn't. So if it was down to the player that stopped this move, if it was something else, okay, fair enough. But yeah, I'd find that strange.
Yeah, have you seen much of him in the Euros?
Well, I've seen him come on in the final. I've seen a little bit of Real Sociedad in the Champions League, but the player that we sort of analysed a lot more there when we were doing those games is a Kubo.
Oh, the winger, Japanese international.
I think he plays on the right, comes inside on the left foot. So we looked at him a little bit more than anybody else, but he was really good in the final, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When he came on. And it wasn't just about getting on the ball. A lot of the time he won the ball. So, I'm talking about, will the midfield be so aggressive as maybe him and McAllister? But I think he's got that ability to win the ball back. He's obviously a quality footballer. You'd expect at the level that he's playing at. And I had a good look at him on Y-Scout as well when all the rumours came. Oh, yeah, I had a good look at him, yeah. Or his best bits. But
like what you say?
Even I look good on Y-Scout.
Is there any concern about he's taken a few days here to make his mind up? Usually if someone says, Liverpool want you, players go, yep, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a concern for me. And again, it's not just the Liverpool thing. I just reiterate what I said there. It's just that, we're not taking someone from Barcelona or Real Madrid. Or let's make a different argument, because obviously, it'd be difficult to get anybody from Barcelona or Real Madrid. Say Atletico Madrid, who are a team who aren't quite the giants of Spain, but they're competitive in every sort of competition. They go far in the Champions League. And if we were trying to buy someone from there, and it was a local boy, I'd say, you know what, I can understand that. He's living in Madrid.
Yeah.
They punch you above the weight. They've got a great stadium. And with Real Sociedad, and again, I'm sure someone might try and make a headline out of this. I'm not being disrespectful, but it's a team who most big clubs in Europe would look at and say, well, if they've got a quality player, we go there and we buy them. We meet the buyout clause, and the player thinks, well, okay, I'm going to my next step. Real Sociedad can't be your final step. Now, if he wants to stay in Spain and thinks, okay, Madrid or Barcelona might come for me one day, okay, I could get that. But I just think at the age he's at, I just think 25 is just a perfect age to make that move. You're mature, you've got a lot of experience behind you. And again, it's not a Liverpool thing. It's just moving to the best league in the world and playing Champions League football. I think it's a move you've got to make.
I suppose there's the similarities to a player you played alongside, Xavi Alonso. Like, he'd probably been a couple of years younger, but it's that close to the start of the season. Liverpool going to get him from Sociedad, and you saw when he comes in, he's just complete world class. He's just like that player that he has been. Zubamendi's manager, maybe you can get an arm in there, go on, just convince Xavi to get him to make that move.
I'm sure I'm sure he would have spoken to him and got a little bit of advice. I was just reading up on Zubamendi that he's probably not exactly like Alonso, and that I think his passes are a lot more shorter. He's not what Xavi was like. He was scoring goals from the halfway line, wasn't he? So I think Arne Slot's looking at someone to knit the team together and basically get the ball off the back four, and then go and let those attacking players play with nicely tuned through passes, through the lines, through the third. So it might be slightly different, but I hope we get it across. I hope we get that because it's obviously what the manager wants, and it feels to me like this position is very important to the manager. It's not just about us needing a number 6. I think we all said that last season, but I think we all envisioned a different type of number 6. We're talking about someone who can basically protect the back four. Maybe he's got pace. Basically, I know Fabinho. Really, we hadn't really replaced them, so this looks like something completely different, and I think that plays into the fact that we will see something different from this Liverpool team this season.
I think Jurgen Klopp, he managed to buy Arne Slot some time to give him that time to settle in and really find his feet at Liverpool. But it does feel like the jury's out a little bit more on the people behind the scenes, like Richard Hughes, when they've not signed anyone yet. We've seen them go in for a Gordon and a Euro, and it's not happened. What have you made of all that transfer business so far? The fact that Liverpool are the only side yet to bring anyone in?
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. I think some of the carry on social media, I say, honest to God. Honest to God. I'm glad we're not a team who buys players left, right and centre. I love the fact with that. And we just, like, when we want to get someone, we'll go for them and we'll be clinical, and no more often than not, we'll get it done. I thought that'd be the case with Zubamendi. It hasn't quite happened. So, but listen, you can't force someone's arm up the back, can you? No, I don't want us to be... I think we needed 2 or 3 players. That's all we needed. The Euro one, I totally understand. Why would you pay 50, 60 million pound for a young centre-back when we've got Giroud, who's cost us nothing? Is he going to get enough football at our club that he would somewhere else? You think, obviously, we've got Canati there. Now, do I think we need a centre-back? Yeah. But I don't think we need a project and spending that type of money. And if you do that, the lad's got to be playing 25, 30 games a season to sort of progress his career. You know, because I'm sure that was what they've said at Manchester United. You might not be first choice, but as soon as someone's injured, you're in and you'll get your 25, 30 games. So it was the right decision not to go through with that. The Anthony Gordon-Gomez one, obviously we were in... I think that was maybe out of our hands, and that was more of a Newcastle transfer in terms of the PSR. But that was a transfer I would have liked to have seen go through. And if there was still something in that between now and the end of the window, that's something I would be really interested in us doing, whether that was just Anthony Gordon or that's Joe Gomez being involved, because I think Joe's probably at a stage now where he probably wants first team football, and I'm not sure he will ever get that at Liverpool. So I've got no criticism at all of the ownership, not the ownership, the
football operations.
We'll call them. Yeah, no. I mean, listen, we've all been crying. Everyone's been crying to get Michael Edwards back in his team. I know Michael's in a slightly different role. Richard Hughes is in there now, but they've obviously got a great relationship. And any deal that's going on at Liverpool, in or out, I'm sure Michael Edwards is all over it as well. And getting sort of Richard Hughes accustomed to the club and how things work. So I'm not worried at all. And I just think I always have great belief in what we do behind the scenes with the ownership and the football operations, that we'll be very clinical. And you only have to see that with the deal done with Carvalho, which is a great deal for us in terms of him going out and the money that we've brought in. You
mentioned Michael Edwards there, and I wanted to circle back to that, but just before I do, a little bit of a quiz question for you. You mentioned there about Chelsea's model and totally different to Liverpool's. So they've just signed Neto from Wolves, and that's the 35th signing of the Todd Bowley era in just over 2 years. The last 35 signings that Liverpool have made, can you tell me who number one of that 35 is?
Oh,
how far back it goes?
Wow, is this just under Michael Edwards?
No, it's just Liverpool's last 35.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, was Michael Edwards in charge then? You've got to give me the season.
He was at the club. It was 10 years ago. Or 9 years ago, sorry.
35 signings in 9 years, and Chelsea have done 2.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, and you tell me, that's embarrassing from Chelsea's point of view.
That's without looking at the transfer fees as well.
Yeah. Honestly, God, it's just. I mean, would you want that? I mean, some fans would want that because they get all excited and we've won the transfer mark. It's an absolute joke that someone makes that many transfers in such a short period of time. And I'm glad. I think the less signings we make, the better. Because if you're making 2 or 3 every summer, you must really want them. You must really feel like they're a big part of your team. And you're not just buying players and you don't know where they're going to go, where they're going to play. It's just, you create no cohesion, no team spirit. No, I just want us to sign 2 or 3 players every summer. And that'll do me. Oh, I've got off the quiz here, haven't I?
Well, to be fair...
So that was 9 years ago?
Yeah.
What year? So that's
2015.
2015.
There was 2 tweets that basically said different players, but that's... So if you say one or the other, I'll give you that.
Okay. 2015, so was Rodgers still a manager?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Rocky?
No.
Was it Rodgers? I thought there was one that was saying it was one of Klopp's. It was a couple of years in.
Ricky Lambert?
No, that was the year before.
Oh, so the year after. So Rodgers was last summer?
Yeah.
James Milner?
Close.
Who did he sign that summer? So Lambert was the year before. Did he sign in that last summer?
Bobby was in that one, wasn't he?
Firmino's one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Firmino or Joe Gomez. Basically, either of those were the first of 35 signings.
Yeah.
Chelsea have done it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
No, I'm really pleased with how we and I think we need to do business going out as well, because I don't think people realise how big our squad is because we had so many injuries last season. And so Carvalho going, he had his opportunities, didn't quite work out for him. We've got good money in. And that's where, when people talk about Liverpool transfer-wise being brilliant, and Michael Edwards is there, so that, the Richard Hughes is great, it's selling players.
Yeah.
We get that right. And I think there'll be another 3 or 4 going from Liverpool. Because there's no way where they can all get the minutes. I don't see, even like some of the young players coming through. I know there's a bit of fans getting a little bit agitated on the fact maybe some young players might be sold on, but we've also got a lot of young players in the same positions. Where did they play? Where did they get minutes? So that's just the nature of the game. But no, I just want us to sign. I'd like us to sign Anthony Gordon. I would. And I'd like us to sign left-footed centre-back stroke who will play left-back. And hopefully get the Real Sociedad lad over the line. I'd be delighted with that. That's someone if he did that and also sold probably another 3 or 4 players.
But my only concern is the kind of optics of outlooks where you sort of shedding the squad of its younger players. And okay, a couple of them might only go on loan, but if you sell a Bobby Clark and you've just sold a Carvalho, and say you get 40 million for them, and then you maybe sell Tyler Morton, and then you don't bring anyone in, it looks like you're adding 50 million to the books there for nothing. Fans aren't seeing players come in and return.
But when you see come in, what do they need to come in for? If there's no space there, so you've got Gravenberch, you've got Curtis Jones, you've got McAllister, you've got Szoboszlai who's playing in there, you've got Harvey Elliott who's playing there. Hopefully with the lad from Real Sociedad. So there's 6. There's only 3 positions in midfield, and then you've got the Naoni. Is it
Naoni?
Naoni. You got Bajcetic. Have I missed anyone? Sorry if I've missed someone.
Probably have, because just there's lots, isn't there?
Where did he play? So no, I would. They know what they're doing. I can assure you they know what they're doing. But sometimes, even training, sometimes when you've got that many players, it's hard to put a training session. Where do they all fit? How do if you're doing 11v11, I'd say the worst thing that can ever happen to a professional footballer is when you're training and it's 11v11 and you're a first team player and you don't even make the 22. We've got proper first team players. I've been there where you're playing. I wasn't on the side like I was always playing. Well, you'll have 2 or 3 players and it's embarrassing. You can't have too many, And we've also got a lot of young players competing with each other. All those young players are not all going to come through at Liverpool and play together in the same midfield. There'll be one standout one, and it looks like Naoni looks like he's the one at the moment who's made a bit of an impact on the manager. And the problem with that is he's younger than the other ones. So I know when you're a young player coming through, when someone younger starts playing ahead of you, you're like, whoa, where am I going here? If he's 2 years below me, and so it's. Listen, it's just the nature of the game. For me, it's not. I don't care about the optics, how it looks. It's about getting basically what is right and what we need for the squad and what slot needs.
You wanting to circle back to your
just on the Michael Edwards point, he's obviously held up as a bit of a mythical figure, isn't he? Just because of how sort of low key he is. I think he's only ever done 2 on the record interviews with the club, and that was when he announced that he was leaving. He did like an open letter. And when he come back as the CEO of football for FSG, but you actually went to meet him, didn't you, and get a little bit of an insight as to how he works, and it's actually quite straightforward. It's just relationships with agents and.
Well, listen, I think it's probably a bit more than that. But I mean, when I just went to a chat, I was trying to speak to different people in football and educate myself a little bit. We're talking about a lot of these big topics on Monday Night Football. It's not just analysing football, how clubs are run. So it's just getting a little bit of insight into how it works. And I think for me, looking at it, and we talk about how great Liverpool are, I think the big thing is not making stupid mistakes. And I think there's certain things, and I'll mention, I think Man United over the last 10 years, it's not about them not getting things right. It's about getting big things wrong.
Yeah.
That it's wrong when it happens. Like signing Varane and Casemiro, they're things Liverpool would never do under this regime. I mean, rightly so. Where you're buying someone who's old, injury prone, and putting them on a long contract. For me, that's not like Liverpool are amazing that they don't do that. It's just common sense.
Varane got injured on his debut for Como as well.
I saw that today, yeah, but it's like, I always think when all the big clubs are selling you their players, there's always something not quite right. And we all love him. Oh, the fans love him. Thiago, his great skills and all that. Never fit. We signed a player because Bayern Munich were happy. I think it tells you a little something when one of the giants are happy to sell to another giant. So Real Madrid is delighted Casemiro's off their books, Varane. And I just think signings like that, just eradicate those type of things from your transfer dealings. And you can't get everything right. But things that are wrong even when you're doing them. It's just that for me. And also, he did say, relationships with agents and listen, agents play a major part in the game. I know there's a frustration every season when agent fees comes out, but it's part and parcel of the game, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, you're spot on there, I think, with that point about, top clubs don't sell you their best players, do they? But I think maybe a little bit different of an example with Gravenberch, because he was frustrated and not playing, still so young, whereas that is a totally different situation to United buying Casemiro, who was...
Well, he's young. What I'm saying, he's young, isn't he? And it hasn't quite happened at Bayern Munich. But if we're being honest, it hasn't quite happened at Liverpool yet either, has it?
Yeah. I mean, Slot's playing him in a bit of a number 6 role, isn't he, now, and trying to see if he can kick on. He's obviously knows him through Dutch football. I think Johnny Heitinga actually coached him at Ajax for a bit. So I think of all the players who can benefit from Slot, perhaps he's one of the ones.
I mean, when you look at him, he looks the part. Sometimes you look at a player and he look a bit awkward, but you think of the size of him, he's lean, he can run with the ball. But yeah, I mean, the only problem I would say was that one of the reasons why I think it was Tuchel said that, they moved him on from Bayern Munich because they played a different system, and the fact that they played 2 number 6s.
Yeah.
And we at the time, obviously last season the club we played with sort of 4-3-3, 2 number 8s, and you sort of see Gravenberch picking the ball up in that inside left position. You think, okay, can he have a run? Can he play a pass? Now, Slot might get more out of him because the Dutch factor, he might feel that familiarity. But got to remember that was one of the reasons why we were told he left Bayern Munich, was the fact that they played with 2 sitting midfield players, which is what looks like maybe Arne will do a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
And of course, Jamie touched on that he thinks 3 or 4 players should need to leave from Liverpool because it is a big squad.
Don't ask me to name them.
Don't worry, I won't.
Don't want them headlines.
One of the players, I suppose, at the end of last season we thought would move on potentially was Luis Diaz.
Yeah.
But he's still part of the squad now. He started yesterday, and he's probably silenced some of those doubts as well, because it was a fantastic display for him. When you look at the speculation with Gordon, you've already got a very good left winger there.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things why Liverpool were a little bit hesitant, or so people have told us, that they didn't want to make Anthony Gordon for 75 million, was because of how well stocked they were on the left side. Diaz starts there, Gakpo played there for Holland in the Euros, didn't he? Jota can play there, Nunez. But Diaz is probably the one who's got the shirt, isn't he? And I thought he was excellent yesterday. Obviously his first appearance for Liverpool since May, but he had a really good Copa America by all accounts. Just needs to deliver that end product a little bit more for me. Because every time he gets on the ball, you get on the edge of your seat waiting for something to happen. And I thought yesterday he made quite a fair few things happen, and just needs to get that consistency, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like that with Diaz. I don't think anyone would say he's not a good player. I think every Liverpool fan would say he's a very good player, Luis Diaz. But he's not quite Mane.
Yeah.
And you're thinking of how do we get back to being the best again? That's always got to be the aim. And I feel that's probably the case with every forward at the club, probably besides Salah. Just under elite. When we won the league, we had the front 3 they were all top class. Now I don't think you need all three to be amazing, but I think you need 2. And I think at the moment we've probably only got Salah, who you guarantee 25 goals, 30 goals. Even last season at the end we're saying, he hasn't had a great season or he's gone off the boil. You still look at his numbers and they're on a different level to everybody else. Now I look at all the other attackers and I just think they're all very good. I don't think any of them are world class, or like where you go, that's one of the best players attacking players in the Premier League. And I think the reason Diaz has probably been mentioned is because you think of Jota. Now, no one would probably buy him because he's injury prone. Nunez probably hasn't done enough where someone might give you money back. So I'm trying to think if we're looking for someone to take us who's better than what we've got, one would have to go. And I think the reason Luis Diaz has been mentioned is the fact that the age he's at is a good age where he's not too old, where someone might say, okay, we're not going to shell out decent money. Because he's such a good player, you think someone good would maybe fancy him as well. And you're probably in that situation where if you don't sell him, you're giving him a new contract, which would be mega dough because he's a very good player. He does well in the Copa America. So I think that's probably why his name has come up. And I think the reason why Anthony Gordon's name has probably come up and Liverpool are interested is I think there's only probably Nunez now in the attack who's got blistering pace. Salah's obviously he's not as quick as he was, of course he's not, but I don't think Diaz has got that pace. Again, I go back to Mane, and I think Anthony Gordon's pace is frightening. I do. I think that's like, oh, you're just like, you're watching a game on TV and you go, whoa, you just see someone leave a fullback. And that's what I think he could add if that was the case, if he was to come in and maybe Liverpool were interested at the end of last month. I think it's that pace, that's, Mane pace, basically. I do think we lack that in the attack.
Could you imagine him scoring at Goodison Park?
I would love it.
Last derby at Goodison Park as well.
Yeah,
add to it even more.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
We'll move on to the centre forwards now, because I suppose that was the big talking point out of the two games yesterday. Jota starts one, scores an incredible goal. Nunez, in a mismatch of a team, he has a disallowed goal for offside, and there was one-on-one chance where he just kicks it straight at the keeper. So basically, same old Darwin, Nunez. It does look like Jota is going to be the one who starts against Ipswich, but what are you making of those attacking options, Gorsty?
I thought Jota was really good yesterday. His volley was unbelievable, really, off his left foot, outside of the foot almost. It reminded me of Robbie Fowler. And then his assist, to be fair, for Diaz's first, where he just kind of outfights the defender from a high ball, gets it under control and lays it off. And that's Jota to a T, really. A superb finisher, probably his best asset, but he's also really tigerish, isn't he, in his work rate and the way he goes about his business. And if he can stay fit, he's going to be a real asset. We had the chance to speak to him in Philadelphia. A few of us sat down with him, and he was just really frustrated about his injuries, particularly last season, because he felt like he was in a good moment, as Klopp might have said a few times, and then he got struck down with injuries. And I always go back to the Arsenal and United games just before Christmas, a couple of draws there at Anfield, and if they'd have had him on the bench for half an hour or whatever, he might have made the difference in one of those, or maybe both of them. And Liverpool really missed him at times, and hopefully he can stay fit for the season, and Liverpool have got their number 9, I think.
Jamie, as a centre-back, which of those two are you preferring to face, Jota or Nunez? Who'd be the tougher one?
Nunez would probably be tougher to play against. But I always say this, sometimes when you speak individually as a centre-back and you say, oh, he was tough to play against, doesn't mean he was better than another player.
Yeah.
Sometimes a player is better for his own team. So Jota would be better, if the chance falls, Jota's going to score. But in terms of causing me an individual problem, Nunez just running all over the place, knocking you out the way. You think you come off the pitch thinking, oh God, I wouldn't want to play against him again. But you almost want to put the two of them together as one player, don't you? You've basically got Jota's finishing with Nunez's pace and power. But listen, the slot comes in. We always know managers can get something more out of certain players and maybe a little bit less out of other ones. That's the nature of when you change your manager. But I always feel when you've had a player for 2 years, you're not going to see something completely different. We know what Nunez is. He will miss chances. He will get into more scoring chances than most players because of who he is. But you've got to keep Jota fit. Because I think if they're your two strikers, there won't be many teams in the Premier League who've probably got two centre-forwards. You look at and you think of, the qualities that they've got. I mean, the thing with Jota, that is something that we probably all love as fans, is that he gives everything, he goes into every chance. He's got to stop going into challenges. He doesn't need to. He even when he's got the ball, I think there was a goal last year, I don't know if it was against Newcastle or someone. He's almost tackling his way through, and he scored. It might have been Chelsea. I kind of think.
Chelsea rings a bell.
Chelsea.
He did that a few times.
We love it and go, look, he gives everything. But some of the tackles he goes into are just ridiculous. He doesn't need to. It's not his job.
It's how he got injured against Brentford.
Norgard fell on him, didn't he? And then he was out there for 3 months. Yeah.
There was one in I don't know. sometimes when I watch him play, I'm a bit like, oh, just stay out of that.
There was one yesterday where he went in with the Sevilla defenders well bigger than him, and he's just thinking, don't need to go.
I know, just that. You don't need to. And I'm maybe in the crowd we all go, oh, he's right, he gives everything, but just use your brain a bit. You've had injuries. I'm not saying you bottle out of a challenge, but what I'm saying is you don't need to go flying into a big centre-back or a keeper come flying out. If it's not your ball, it's 60-40, just slam on. Put the brakes on a little bit. I just think he's too aggressive. He's too... Just, you run into challenges and go, I wouldn't even go into that. You know, and I just think he comes out the wrong end. He's only a little fella. Just stay out of it, and just because you keep him fit. He is. I've gone on record as saying last season he's as good as any finisher I think we've had in the Premier League era. I know you said the goal yesterday was like Robbie Fowler's, and I seen something on Twitter this morning. I retweeted it. I think does he work for the Echo? Is it Andrew Beasley?
Andrew Beasley, yeah.
He's something.
Yeah.
Well, basically, like he does all the stats, doesn't he, and stuff. And he said, I think for goals or shots on target, however you want to do it, he was sort of top of the list of Liverpool's attackers in the Premier League era. And I do think he is that good finishing wise. Head, left foot yesterday, his right foot. So if you keep him fit, and you could almost split the games between him and Nunez throughout the season, I think that would be a real asset for us.
It could be one where they need his goals even more this year, because this new system, it does seem to have Salah more on that right-hand side than cutting in and being a central figure.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting. It'll be slightly different how we set up. The midfield will be more technical. Maybe you get more goals from midfield now as well. So, but no, I don't think scoring the goals will be a problem for us this season. But obviously, you want more players in your army who can do it.
I know we've already touched on Bobby Clark, but I'll bring up Ben Doak now because there's a lot of talk about him as well. He had a very good game yesterday, but I think it was the same old Ben Doak in terms of he beats three men and where's the end ball. There's been talk of him going on loan, maybe going permanently. What have you made of it, Gorsty? Because he is an exciting player.
Yeah, well, he could have got the winner yesterday, couldn't he? But someone ran in the way of a shot, wasn't it? Who was it?
Tyler Morton, wasn't it?
Morton, yeah. Yeah, he needs minutes, doesn't he? And with Liverpool back in the Champions League now as opposed to the Europa League, I'm not sure where those minutes are going to come. Southampton and Leicester interested in him, and the plan was for him to sit down with his agent and Slot and Hughes and basically thrash out what's next for him. So, yeah, I'd like to see him go on loan, you know, ideally to one of those two in the Premier League where we can see him most weeks and see how he's getting on and really kick on, develop and sort of hone that final touch, because I think that's just what's missing at the moment, because you see him skip by players with ease and he gets to the byline and then it's just that final pass, isn't it, that's lacking at times. But really exciting player and he's got a massive future.
Jamie, he is only 18. Like, you're one of a number of great players that have come through. He's still very young.
Oh, I thought he was about 20.
Nah.
Celtic actually played him in an Old Firm game when he was 16. He brought him on off the bench for one.
But
he
was playing for us, like, not last season, the year before, wasn't he?
Yeah. He made his debut as a 16-year-old to Liverpool.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he's still that young, so you're allowed to be raw at that age.
Well, I think probably if he's still only 18 and you think of, you know, as you said, maybe go on loan and then see where he's at in this stage next season. Because I think if Salah was out, I'm not sure. What would you do, I suppose? But I mean, Harvey Elliott's played there under Jurgen Klopp. I don't see Harvey Elliott as a wide player. I don't think he's got the pace.
He said this year, I think he's number 10 now, Harvey Elliott.
Yeah, but he's part of the midfield three. I mean, he was doing that to a certain extent under Jurgen towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
Where he's almost playing on that right side, so it's not too dissimilar to what maybe he's being asked to do under Slot. But I prefer him in there. I think he's got more bodies around him, because obviously we know he's got a lack of pace. And it'd be interesting to see. I mean, what would we do if Salah, you know, he's not going to play every game? Because that was even a problem last season, but it's always been a problem for Jurgen. Yeah. I mean, we had Jota out there at times. It just doesn't feel the same. Jota played there for a little bit, didn't he?
It's that right side, isn't it? You know, they've got loads of options on the left. But once Salah doesn't play, the kind of drop-off is probably too much for whoever comes in there.
But the problem is,
I mean, Doak might be a good one if he does all right in pre-season to keep, because you can't have a very good player behind Salah, because you know Salah's going to play, and he's quite robust, doesn't get injured too often, he doesn't like coming off. So the players from behind him's almost got to know, I'm only going to play if Salah's being rested, or he's got a slight knock, and it's difficult to have a top-class player doing that. So maybe Doak might be the answer in that position.
I suppose one issue with it as well is, say Salah goes at the end of his contract, Liverpool aren't going to go, Ben Doak, you're the person who's going to be the right wing replacement. They're going to probably spend a club record fee to get the next Mohamed Salah.
Yes. No, I agree. They will do that, unless Doak, you know, Ben has a... Listen, when you're a young player, to come in and get a first team spot, you've got to do something pretty extraordinary where we're all going, wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, Robbie Fowler scores 5 in his second game. You know what I mean?
Ronnie Brown said he should have had 6.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I scored on me. I think you've got to make. And listen, these lads have made an impact. Michael Owen scores. I scored on my debut. I think there's got to be something where people go, woof. It's not enough just to do okay. I always say to my son, actually, doing enough's not enough. It's not.
Yeah.
You've got to grab people by the throat and like, wow, did this. So I think even, you know, this young lad now in pre-season, Ione. Am I getting this right, by the way?
Ione, yeah.
Ione, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Trev. He's 17, is he?
Yeah.
So what he's done at 17 is pretty special. You know, even though it's only pre-season, but at 17, you're thinking, wow.
He was 16 when he made his debut and come on against Southampton in the Cup.
Yeah, so a lot of young players come in and make an impression, do well in a certain game, but to be first choice at Liverpool's tough. It is really tough. So, as you said, even Ben Doak has to do something pretty special this season for Liverpool not to go into the market if Mo Salah moved on at the end of the season. And you're still in that thing of always being a squad player.
Which brings us on nicely to those expiring contracts. Gorst,
yeah,
you spoke to Virgil.
Just about to ask you about that, actually, Jamie. We had a chance to speak to Virgil yesterday, and I asked him about his contract, and he started almost laughing and rolling his eyes, and he knew it was coming, and he just said, there's no change at the moment. Maybe a little bit of a surprise 3 months on from last time we spoke to him, and he said the same thing. There's apparently no offer on the table. Nothing happening with Salah at the moment or Trent. You know, sure, things happening behind the scenes, but nothing too imminent. And you know, what's your take on all of those 3 situations?
I think Trent's the most important because of his age, and things keep popping up. Talking about Real Madrid, with Trent and all that. And if I'm being honest, I don't see that this summer for a start. I mean, they have got the right back who's just won the Euros with Spain, has won the European Cup 5 times, so I don't think he's going anywhere sharpish. And I think it's all negotiation. It's all a bit of a game, it's saying, because this is probably, would you say, the biggest contract of his career? Maybe the next one might be, but he's at that age, he's 25. If he's going to sign a 4 or 5 year deal, so he's probably not going to be in this position again until he's maybe 28, 29. So it's really important to get it. I think that will get done because he's a local player. You know, he's going to be the future captain probably of the club. So I expect that to get done. So I think that the thing at the moment that will be all a negotiating tactics probably for him to get a few more quid. Virgil and Mo, I just think they've also got to understand that they're in that stage of the career. Are they both 33 or are they
33 and 32?
Yeah, Salah's 32. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be a case of, I think, start the season, and I'm sure, listen, people are speaking to people right now, and you'd want both of those players to stay. But the thing that I know for myself when I was that age, that it's not that the club wouldn't want them to stay. Look, I think they would want them to stay. But they'll want the same money.
Yeah. I mean, Salah's
and they've been probably, and rightly so, the 2 highest paid players in the club, and probably 2 of the highest paid players in the Premier League, and rightly so, fully deserved. But when you give someone a new contract, you're not giving them a new contract on what they've done. It's what they're going to give you in the future. Now, I think they're still at the stage when you look at last season, there were still 2 of Liverpool's best players. I think Van Dijk was Liverpool's best player last season. And Mo wasn't too far behind. But when you're giving someone a contract, it's about what they're going to do for you in the future. Now, do we expect Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk in the next, say, this season and the next 2, if you like, or certainly the season after? Are they going to give us what we got 5 years ago? Probably not. Because it's just the nature of a footballer when you get older. So that's probably the negotiation where they're thinking, well, I still want to stay on the same money. And the club might be thinking, oh, I'm not sure that we can pay someone who's 33, 34, whatever they're on. And good luck to them. And this is not me being a bitter ex-pro about what players in. Good luck to them. They've been absolute legends for the club and deserve every penny that they've got. But I think that's really about, and they might have to sort of, that'll be the negotiation, I'm sure, going forward. Because I don't think Arne Slot or Michael Edwards or Richard Hughes will be looking at those 2 players saying, we don't want them with us next season. I don't believe that.
Just going back to Trent, I'll probably get loads of people having a go at me for this, but just to play devil's advocate, I can actually see a scenario where he's looking at Real Madrid, maybe not this year, but looking at it and thinking, well, if I go there, I won't have to listen to
Paul Gorst.
Yeah, Paul Gorst. Yeah. I don't think he listens to me now, to be fair. He's not going to have his defending dissected to the nth degree in the same way he does at the moment.
Why wouldn't he?
Well, it's just the Real Madrid. You're sort of out of sight, out of mind a little bit, aren't you, in terms
He'd be getting it in Real Madrid. I can tell you about that.
In terms of like the coverage of the Premier League is just, it supersedes everything, does it, in terms of the rest of European football?
I can assure you, the people I speak to say playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona is a completely different level to anything anybody has ever known in terms of scrutinising your own game. I mean, Thierry Henry tells me what it was like in Barcelona. He said it's on a completely different level to anything else he's ever experienced at any other club. So, they have papers just for football. Mark and Ass and over there. So, and they've got a full paper to fill. They have to fill it every day. So, he might not be able to understand it. But I think the scrutiny there.
Not necessarily in terms of the scrutiny from the Spanish papers. Obviously, we know that's particularly intense there for Real Madrid and Barcelona. But I just mean in terms of...
You mean like Gary Neville going over every single bit of defending?
If he goes to Real Madrid, the positives are accentuated. If he does something great in a Clasico, and then it's all over Twitter, as opposed to doing something for Liverpool that probably isn't great, and then that's all over social media. If you understand what I'm saying, am I making any sense? Probably not.
Yeah. No, listen, I get what you're saying, but I think, Trent's probably the most talked about fullback I've ever known in my life, but I think that's the nature because he's different. We've never seen anyone like him before. Really, I even like your Cafus and your Roberto Carloses were not like Trent. He's a playmaker from fullback. I've never seen that before, really, and the influence he has on a team, or certainly the Liverpool team, creatively. So I think we've all grew up with this impression of what a fullback looks like in our head.
Yeah.
And I used to get criticism the opposite way of Trent, in that you don't do the attacking side of it, but defensively, I was like basically like a centre-back playing full-back. And Trent almost gets the opposite criticism. And in the end, I had to move position. Well, not had to, but I moved to position back to me best position. And it's just, we keep going back to that. Will Trent move position under Arne Slot? I do think about that, because the reason I do think about it is, and I know what happened in the summer and stuff like that, but that doesn't make me feel that Trent couldn't play in midfield. But when you're talking about, I was saying before about young players making an impression, Conor Bradley's made an impression. He's made a big impression. Now, in 12, 18 months' time, Conor Bradley will need to be first choice, or he'd have to move on. If, say, Trent stayed at right back, Conor Bradley's not going to stay back up right back for Liverpool forever, considering the performances that he's put in. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be interesting how Liverpool deal with that situation over the next 12 months, because I think right now it's right that Conor Bradley is still learning his trade and playing maybe when Trent doesn't, but eventually that lad will want to play. But with Trent, I know what you're saying, he gets criticised for it, but you know why he gets criticised for it? Because it's the easiest part of the job he's doing. Because you're looking at fullbacks up and down the league who are decent fullbacks, but you see some of the things he can do that are like, no one in the world can do that. No one in the world can do that. So even when I watch him, I'm just thinking, if he could just get a little bit, it doesn't have to be like, I used to go into a game thinking, I've got to keep a clean sheet, I've got to stop your winger crossing, I've got to be aggressive, I've got to make challenges, because I couldn't do anything else. And you just want Trent to sort of just be he doesn't have to be the way I was or have that mentality, just be a little bit more switched on, a little bit more aggressive, and you're playing for Liverpool anyway, you're going to have loads of the ball, and then you can just show us why you are one of the best fullbacks in world football. So I know you say he gets criticised, but when you're playing for Liverpool and he's that good at playing, he's that big a name, because how many bigger names as fullbacks are there than Trent? There's not, is there?
No. You're going back to Carlos.
When you talk about like the best players in the Premier League, if you named, I don't know, say you said you were the best 10, 15, say the top 20 players in the Premier League, and we've done it for the last 20 years every season, how often would a fullback be in that list?
Ashley Cole's the only one who could maybe stake a claim for top 20?
Maybe, but he was what you imagined as a fullback.
Yeah, he was
aggressive, he got forward, he went up and down the line. But he wasn't. He's just different. I think you'd say Trent was a great player before you'd even said he was a great fullback, if you know what I mean. He's just a great player. And that's what makes him different, and that's what makes him special, and that's why, Liverpool have got to get this contract sorted out for him. But it will be interesting whether he sees his situation as a local player the way I did, which was like, I want to play for Liverpool my whole life. Stevie, obviously, because he was getting courted by Real Madrid, obviously, Chelsea stuff, but Real Madrid came for him every summer. I don't think he was ever close to going there, if I'm being totally honest, but Trent will, I'm sure, will have that. But it's what you want, what you want. You want to sample. I don't think anyone could criticise him too much, but I do think we expect a little bit more. We do, fans do, of local players, about it in terms of staying at the club or moving on.
I had the chance to speak to Slot in Carolina on the tour, and that was one of the questions I put to him. I said, I seen an interview with Trent saying he spoke to you before the Euros, and did he sort of reaffirm his commitment? And he said, we didn't speak about his commitment, which surprised me. Don't know whether he was kidding me on or what, but he said we sort of spoke about where I see him playing, and that surprised me really. If it was true that he hadn't spoken, whether his vice captain was committed for the season ahead, and considering with the contract situation hanging over him.
It's difficult, isn't it? Slot speaking to him for the first time. It's on the phone. What are you staying, lads, or what?
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say? And he probably doesn't want to come across as too much on the front foot. He's speaking football. He's probably trying to get him on side, tell him about his ideas that sort of make Trent want to sort of be part of Arne Slot's Liverpool. And I think, the manager will leave that to, other people speaking to his aides. He's sure there's talks going on. He probably doesn't want to throw a spanner in the works himself and say something maybe.
Yeah, he does.
He says something that maybe doesn't go down well with Trent or whatever. So I think that's all that'll be. But listen, if he was to move on, there's not many better backups than what we've got at the moment. So I think he's done really well in pre-season as well, Conor Bradley. And he is what you'd imagine as a fullback, isn't he? When you see him play, you think, that's how I imagine a fullback playing. He's just up and down, isn't he? He's almost like Robbo, isn't he? But on the other side.
Yeah, technically very good as well, isn't he? Which I think is a little bit underrated at the moment.
Yeah.
I will just get you on your hopes for the season now, really. Like, what counts as a good season for Liverpool? We've seen them probably exceed expectations last year, but with all the changes, what do you both think, really? I just think we need to be competitive in everything. Now, that means we could win 2 trophies, we could win nothing, but I think... I always think, you want to make sure before anything starts, you're in the Champions League next season, so we're in the top 4. I think any Liverpool team should be looking at the Champions League thinking we've got to get to the latter stages of this, and then who knows what happens. And you want to go... I always think this idea of like the domestic cups, I think have a good run in one of them. I'm not too fussed about, we've got to go for both cups. See where we're going. If you're doing well in the Carabao, I'm not saying you write the FA Cup off, but I wanted us to lose last season to Arsenal in the FA Cup. I knew we must have been in the semi-final of the Carabao. And I know that sounds terrible, I wanted us to lose. I could see, because it was Arsenal, I was like, when we were going for the league, I was like, let them keep going.
Yeah.
Get out of it. Because to win 2, I know, what did we do? We done it the year before, or a couple of years before, we won 2 domestic cups, which is great, but it takes so much out of you, that 2 of them, go for 1 of them. And if you're going well in the Carabao, or we go out early in the Carabao, okay, let's have a good go at the FA Cup, because we've missed a lot of midweeks with the Carabao. But if we're well on our way into Christmas, January, we're in the quarters or the semis of the Carabao, that'd just make me think, don't need to go mad in the FA Cup. You don't deliberately lose, but what I'm saying is, I just think I think it takes 2. I think that cost us winning the Champions League or the league the year when we're going with City, when we're in the 2 domestic cups. I do. I just think that we just completely ran out of gas in the last 3 or 4 league games. We still won them, and then remember the game in Villarreal, we had to do second half, and then we go to the Champions League final. I know
they're getting injuries as well, weren't they?
All the shite
lost a couple in the cup
all
final.
The crap that happened in Paris, but it just we're just taking too much out of us. And I just think, all that thing, we're going for the quadruple. It's like no one's ever done it before. There's a reason why, So for me, attack one of the domestic cup competitions and be competitive in the league and the Champions League. And I think we've got more chance of winning the Champions League than the Premier League. I do think we're behind City and Arsenal now. About where those 2 clubs are right now. But, if we get the couple of 2 or 3 signings the manager wants, I think we can be what we were last season, where it's almost like, rather than them being a front 2 and we're with the rest sort of trying to get places 3 and 4. It's almost like a top 3 and the others are trying to get the 4th position. If we did the same in the league, I'd be quite pleased. With a new manager coming in, I actually think at times we over exceeded what we probably expected in the league. There was a lot of games where we scored last minute, which is a great trait to have, but conceding early, Alisson and Van Dijk I thought were brilliant at times. I've seen keeping us in games. So I think most Liverpool teams watching last season could understand why we never went on and won the league. You felt every game you were going to like the wire. So I think if we can be sort of in there with City and Arsenal as long as possible, like we were last season, I think it'll be a really good achievement. And as I said, have a good run in the Champions League, which I think we should be looking to win the Champions League. I will get to a semi-final because, the Anfield factor, the manager's got experience in Europe, we've got players who won the Champions League before, and there's not many teams in Europe who are better than us.
You feeling the same?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think Liverpool expended too much energy last season coming from behind. Jamie mentioned it there about conceding early, and I think once Jurgen announced he was leaving in January, it felt like a little bit of a groundswell of, this has to happen now, and probably started the run a little bit too early, if you see what I mean. Like, where you turn on the afterburners, and they were doing it in sort of January, early February, and every game was just a real emotional heft, and eventually it took too much out of the squad. The injuries, of course, but games like Luton at home and Sheffield United at home shouldn't have been anywhere near as fraught as they were, and that eventually catches up with the team, and I think that happened towards the April time, didn't it, when it just sort of fell off a cliff. So if they can control games a little bit better, manage things, with a bit more intelligence at times, and, don't have to go 2-0 up inside 15, 20 minutes, then they can keep the energy reserves for later on in the season when it matters. And yeah, just a good run in the Champions League, a couple of good nights in the Champions League, maybe last 16, last quarterfinals, something like that, see how they go. And yeah, I think there's no real major expectations or demands this season. I think that's why it's all exciting and fresh, and we'll see what happens. You've
got to feel like you're going somewhere, this year with the new manager. I don't think any Liverpool fan is going to be too critical. If we finish in the top 4 and we don't win a trophy, it'll be like, okay, where are we going? Where are the positives? Okay, this might be the summer now. Next summer, where Arne Slot really sort of sees what he wants, what he needs. Now he's still assessing the squad as such. You've got players, contract situations, and the following summer, right, okay, we need X, Y, and Z. He's also been in the Premier League for a season. I remember Rafa Benitez's first season. We won the Champions League, which sounds amazing, but a lot of the season wasn't great. The following summer was when Rafa really stamped his authority on the team in terms of what he needs in the Premier League. So he bought players when he first came in that maybe weren't suited to Liverpool or the Premier League. The following summer he buys Pepe Reina, he buys Momo Sissoko and Peter Crouch. That season, we only win the FA Cup. But I think we got 80 points or 82 points in the league, and we finished 3rd, I think we finished. But you're winning most weeks. So after a year of sort of learning about the Premier League, so that might be we might have to accept that under Arne Slot as well this season at times.
Well, it's Nord Person of the Week time now. Regular viewers and audience know we do this every Monday, where we just look back on the last few days and give it to who stood out for us. I suppose if Zubamendi had signed, he'd be the standout, or maybe we'd go for some of the matches, but I think you've got someone in mind.
Yeah, I think we've got to give it to Jamie for coming in and giving us time for the echo today, hasn't he? So, Jamie Carragher is NordVPN.
Who else just get in here, by the way?
Ian Doyle,
yeah, normally.
We get some special one-on-ones, like we've got one coming out with Ian Graham, but that was just a 2-person remote. I think you're one of the few that has come in.
He's got the book coming out,
yes.
Hasn't he?
Yeah.
You're one of the few in person.
I've got that on my iPad, so when it comes out, it downloads straight away.
Do you not get a freebie from
the league?
Yeah. How to win the Premier League or something like that?
Yeah, inside the data revolution.
And you spoke to Marcus Babbage?
Can he have a phone call with Arne Slot?
I know, yeah. Tell him all the secrets. Well, his deputy is the head of research now, isn't he, Will Spearman? So yeah, fascinates me all that side of things. I'm looking forward to seeing your chat with Ian and reading his book.
No pressure. But yeah, that's all we've got time for today. We'll be back on Friday. Sadly, no Jamie, but hopefully we won't have to wait too long to get you back on.
No, I'm at Old Trafford, unfortunately. I'd rather be here, but Mr. Neville calls.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, Jamie, and we'll be back looking ahead to Ipswich. Until next time.